Hello friends, Dota Alchemy here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Jenkins.com, and in this video we're going to be discussing how to be a neckbeard virgin in 7.21D. Skills and items on Abaddon. It's very simple actually. Go for Miscoil level 1 for the Harass, Photic Shield level 2 for the Purge, Miscoil level 3 for the Harass. You can win the lane at this point. You don't need any more points of Miscoil to win the lane, so you max out a Photic Shield by level 7, go for your ultimate at every single point that you can. Then after you've maxed out the Photic Shield, max out Miscoil, level 10, 20 movement speed talent, so that way you can get into fights and use your shield on people. It's got a pretty short range, however if you can be greedy, 25% XP gain is not that bad on most heroes. Curse of Avernus, you can max that out last. It's not really useful at all as a support. You don't want to be running into fights anyway. You want to be playing like a Dazzle, like a true healer. Level 15, you want to get the Miscoil, heal and damage. Similar thing, you just don't really need the armor because you're not going to be running into fights anyway. Level 20, go for the 20% cooldown reduction. Exact same thing, 90 damage. Not that useful when you're trying to sit on the sidelines of fights. Even core Abaddons will go for the 20% cooldown reduction just because Abaddon has such good spells to lower the cooldown of. Level 25, I would say 375 AoE Miscoil if you have a lot of AoE on the enemy team that you're dealing with, and the Photic Shield health if there's a lot of single target. Mostly it's going to be single target because that's generally just how carries work. So starting items aren't shown on here, but basically you want to start with 2 tangos, pool 2 tangos to your mid, 2 wards, pool a ward to your mid, pool a ward to your offlaner, and then you just load up on clarities and mangoes depending on if you think you need the instant regen or if you're going to sit behind your creep wave and keep spamming the Miscoil. After that, you can build into boots as soon as possible, stick. Basilius is amazing because it disassembles into Urn, and then you can push with the Basilius and it disassembles into Urn, plus you can build a Medallion as well, and the Medallion builds into Solar Crest, and Urn builds into Spirit Vessel. And realistically, as an Abaddon, like, you're going to have 2 items by the time the game ends at like 30 minutes. You should spend most of your time buying wards and sentries because the hero doesn't need items to function like he does in games right now. You're just sitting behind people, using your spells. It's incredibly effective. Items don't buff that much. If you can get items, I would definitely recommend the typical support items. Medallion, Spirit Vessel, Vlad's, but I wouldn't focus on it too much. If you can buy sentries and D-ward and put wards down, that is going to be of way more value than anything that you can buy otherwise. Step number 1 of laning with Abaddon. Use your Miscoil to harass the enemies as they're going for bounty runes. You may or may not get the bounties, but it doesn't matter because the point of picking this hero is the fact that he harasses better than any other hero in Dota right now. So you want to get these trades started as soon as possible, even before the lane actually begins. Step number 2. Stand safely behind your creep wave and spam your Miscoil as much as possible with the clarity running. It's very important that you don't play like a traditional support where you would stand to the side of the lane in the trees, because realistically the only way to currently counter Abaddon is to kill him. And if you're standing behind the creep wave, you're not going to die. Step number 3. Commit Sudoku using your Miscoil, or kill yourself on the enemies. It doesn't really matter. Go back to base, spam ping the ground, and tell your carry, hey man, drop your items, I'm your courier. TP back into the lane, and continue safely spamming your Miscoil. Step 4. Eventually, as you're bullying your opponents, the lane will push out towards their tower, and that's when you want to pull it back so that they have to come contest it, and then that's when you can kill them. Step 5. Continue harassing with Miscoil, continue bringing items to your carry every time you kill yourself. Eventually, your opponent will get a stick. That's when you want to start harassing from trees so they don't get free stick charges. And eventually, you will be left against this very weak opponent where you can run them down with the shield, get kills on them. Your carry will have this huge advantage, and then you no longer need to be in that lane. So what do you do once you don't need to lane anymore because you've done your job? That's when you leave a safe lane ward and you go do something else. So this ward is essentially going to be protecting your carry, and then you can go ward up their shrine. You can take the bounty runes at the 5-minute mark. You can take runes. You can rotate to the other lane and just be effective there. And worst case scenario, if you can't think of anything where you're going to be effective on the map, then you can just pull and be greedy, because this hero scales very well with some gold and some levels. There are 2 jobs that you have on Abaddon in the mid game, the first of which is warding, the second of which is fighting and essentially acting as a heal bot. But the first thing that I want to cover is warding. And I want to give you an example of just how impactful a ward can be, even though as an Abaddon, you're not really going to be using wards yourself, but your team will use them effectively. So here we have a situation. Sven is running away. We have Tiny Morphling on my team chasing after him. He runs through the vision, goes out of vision, back into vision because of the ward that I placed before, and they pick up a kill on the Sven. So this brings me to the first concept when it comes to warding on Abaddon, and that's that you need to preemptively place the vision, because this hero is not like a Nature's Prophet or a Bounty Hunter where you can get in the back lines and place wards. Like, you have to really have the presence of mind to place wards when you have the small opportunity to do so, because the opportunities, you can't just make them happen. So essentially, I placed this ward because I was already here before. I had a ward in my inventory. I had an opportunity to do it, so I went for it. So make sure to buy out the wards on this hero. If you're occupying this area with your team, make sure that even if it's for a couple of seconds, get a ward down in a non-dewardable location, and then when you move to another location on the map, you'll be thanking Lord Gaben that you have that ward on the opposite side. So your second job in the game, as I mentioned, is team fighting. Essentially, you just walk around with your team and you act like a dazzle and just sit in trees, healing your team. So this kind of segues nicely into giving an example of, we were in a location, I was team fighting, and I placed a ward when I had the small opportunity to do so. And you can even see that this guy has a bunch of sentries, but he's not going to be able to deward that ward because I placed it in a non-obvious location. But in any case, when it comes to team fighting, I see a lot of people make the crucial mistake of thinking that because you have the borrowed time, you have to run in and tank. But that is absolutely a mistake. Like, if you run in and get silenced or stunned, and you can't save your team, who are cores and way more important than you, then you're essentially not playing Abaddon right as a 5. Like, this hero, he's like a dazzle, he's like an Omni Knight. It's about keeping other people alive, and in order to do that, you can't run in and get silenced. Like, the hero's not even tanky when you are a support anyway, so it's not that effective to run it. Your borrowed time is more like you're an Oracle, but if they focus you, you get that automatic ult on yourself to save yourself. But you want to force people to focus you on the back lines, not on the front lines. So a lot of standing in trees, a lot of just playing behind your team and making sure to hover over your spell and make sure that you're in range of casting spells on people. So here's kind of like a mistake that I made, is I wasn't here for that fight. I stood a little too long in a location where I was just kind of split pushing and being greedy, but that is the improper way to play Abaddon. Basically, in the mid game, you want to constantly just be with your team. That's it. Sit behind people. That's the gameplay. And the thing is, this hero's so strong with the purges and the heals that it's so good to do that. You mostly can't fight into an Abaddon even though he has no items. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to comment down below what you think that the next hero guide we should do is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another Fuck Donnie.